A foreigner in the Philippines. Well, we've had so many new subscribers over the last few weeks, literally almost 15,000 or more, and so lots of the videos that we've made, which I might quote to you, seem to have been lost in antiquity. So some of the most important subjects seem to me to be a good one. And my wife is fiddling about in the background there. So what's the most important? Well, if you're looking at this channel and you are interested in coming to the Philippines, you'll have many questions. And I just got one today, and it's as basic as what happens to my pension, because most of the people that are retiring here obviously are either fairly wealthy so that they don't have to worry about the money, or they need to have their pension, and their pension will go a lot further, and that is something that will not surprise you, and it will not be new to you either. But let me give you a bum's rush to coming to the Philippines and what you should do. First of all, I think that you should come out here. That seems to me to be a no-brainer, and what will happen is that you will come out here, try to do some research first, listen to some of the expat sites. Now, a word of warning about expat sites, and I'm perhaps not famous, I'm perhaps infamous on being down on a lot of the expat sites, because either they are very well run, glamorous sites which deal with coming out here and going on vacation. So there'll be white beaches, pina colada. That's my favorite expression, white beaches and pina colada. Not everybody drinks that, I know, but anyway, that's my little phrase. And it deals with people who are doing travelogues, and they do it very beautifully too. Most of them have expensive drones that look a little bit like the Starship Enterprise, unlike the little drone that I have, and they deal with life in its temporary way. The one where you come out here, you don't really get to know the people, because all that you're seeing is a servant that comes up and serves you your drink, and that's really all that you'll see. You won't see the real Philippines. You might do a drive-by of some of the very poor dwellings, and you'll feel sorry and say, wow, the poverty is something else, but you won't really get to know the people. So now, the other type of expat site is the one that is filled with horror stories, you know, and mainly it seems to me, and I'm only offering my opinion, it seems to me that these are people that have made difficult choices about who they want to spend their life with, and they've been ripped off. And there are terrible stories about men who have come out here in the best of spirits, have met somebody who is far more beautiful than they would ever have imagined in their older age, and I speak from experience about the older age, as you can see. And they've lost everything. They've continued giving until there was no more blood left, and they've lost everything. And these are true accounts, and what can anybody say? It can happen to you anywhere in the world. America especially, the standing joke in America on divorce was, we split everything down the middle, straight down the middle, 90-10. And that's another one, isn't it? So, been there, done that too. So, let's get back to what we were originally, what I was originally waffling on about, and that was coming out here. So, let's assume that you've sold your house, and you've sold everything that you don't intend to bring out here. Now, a word of warning, if you're a tool guy, don't sell all your tools, and if you have a perfectly organized workshop, put it into balikbayan boxes and send it out here. don't assume that you can come out here and just replace everything because it's all so cheap, because the tools are probably well, the expensive power tools may even be the same price, if not more. And if you're a tool guy, just finding a center punch, what I would call a center punch, is almost impossible. I've tried to find a nail gun. I have to do drawings of a nail gun. We're on Bohol, which is one of the less developed islands, nothing like Cebu. If you're coming out to Cebu, which the man that messaged me just now, which I've answered his email, and I've answered that, and his parents are coming too, and I think that they're thinking of Cebu, Cebu City, or going perhaps to Dumaguete. Now Dumaguete is probably the retirement place of choice for most retirees, and as a result of that, the services that you can get on Dumaguete are probably second to none. You can go and get your car tuned, serviced, and all of that. Totally unknown for me. I have actually got to behave myself when I go and speak to my mechanic, because he's about the only mechanic on the well, in my area. See, so there are things here which will drive you insane if you're a very proper, organized. Everything should be how it is. If you're coming from America and everything is OSHA, you'll be insane in about 3 days, because when you go around, even to get a new tire fitted, you'll see somebody squatting on the ground in bare feet changing your wheel, and he'll have one jack, and the entire car or truck will be jacked up, the wheel will be taken off, there'll be no axle stands, there'll be no nothing, and you'll be horrified, and you'll be wondering how anybody gets out of this life alive. So you're going to, you've sold up and you've decided how you're going to ship your stuff. Now, if you've come out here and invested the money to come out and see for yourself, try to go to places where you'll be able to experience real life. In some of the better sort of serviced resorts, which are used to dealing with foreigners, so therefore you can go and get a haircut, and it will be the same price, and the man will speak perfect English, and so on. Don't go for that, because you're not, unless you decide that you can afford to live that kind of lifestyle, you're not going to be doing that. So what you need to do is you need to see how much of an adjustment in your attitude you're going to make, and this I find very real. It's my favorite story. The old guy sitting on a fence at the crossroads with his grandson, and some young man comes up, pulls up in his car and says, "Excuse me, I'm going into the town now." They're on the edge of the town, right? "I'm going into town. I'm just wondering, what's it like in there? You know, what's it? I'm thinking of coming and living here, you know. In fact, got my bags packed." And the old man says, "Where have you come from?" So the guy says, "Well, I come from the one back there across the hills." "And what was it like there?" the old man said. "Well, actually, it was a wonderful place. I'm not really moving because I'm dissatisfied. I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to experience other cultures and ways of doing things, and meet more great friends and all of that, and just have fun, you know." So the old man said, "Well, you'll find that this town is much like the one that you've left." So the guy says, "Thanks very much. I'll be on my way." A little while later, because it is a story, don't forget, a little while later, another man pulls up in his car, and he says, "So, sir, what's the town like? I'm thinking of going and living there. You know, what's it like?" The old man again says, "What was the last town that you lived in?" And he says, "Well, the one back across the hills there." He said, "And what was it like?" He says, "Well, you know what? I'm just sick of it. The people are nasty, they're not helpful, I don't have any friends there. It just seems like it's so difficult to make a living. And I thought that I should make a change and get out of it and go into this town. So the old man said, well, this town is much like the one that you left. And when the man had left in his car, the boy says to his grandpa, Gran, why did you tell the first one that it was a wonderful place to live, and the second one is going to the same place, and you said that it was a horrible place to live? He said, well, they'll each find what they're looking for. So if you're coming out here and you love the English pubs, and I don't know, you love going to a transport cafe and having a good old British fry up, if you want to go to McDonald's on every corner, if you want to have a pressed shirt every day and have your car serviced when like clockwork on a computer, you may find that this is not for you. I needed to have a part replaced, a part taken from my blue truck, and about 4 or 5 days beforehand I went to the mechanic and I said, and I'm well known there, believe me, I'm well known there, my little red truck is always breaking down. So I went and I said, I need somebody to come up and take that axle out of the blue truck so that I can take it up to Tagbilaran and get a replacement. So we said, well, why don't we do that on Saturday? So I said, Saturday's fine for me. How do we do this? Well, you'll have to come down and pick the mechanic up, my son-in-law, and he'll bring a few tools up there, take him back to your place, he'll whip the thing out for you, and then you bring him home. Okay, I say, I'm used to that. Saturday morning, I'm there, nice and early, and the son-in-law is working on something else, and he looks at me like this. And I say, it's Saturday. Hey, it's Saturday, and you and me are going up to do the repair on my truck. And he says, no, I can't. We have to get this truck out of here. And he's sweeping out the back of a big truck that they've obviously done some welding on. So I can't. It has to be gotten out today. I said, but we organised this 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah, I'm really sorry. So, now I have a choice. If I want to behave like a foreigner, I can start saying, well, what the hell kind of business are you running here? You've got to leave this, and you've arranged to do something. Where's your business? Where's your business sense? Where's your customer relations? And I would have gotten nowhere, and probably they would have hidden the next time I come in to try and get my truck repaired. So, things like that will be commonplace. The mañana mentality of, it's okay, we couldn't do it today, how about you come by tomorrow? What time? Well, I don't know, just come by and see what happens. So, it's different. It's a lot different. Now, if you go to somewhere like Dumaguete, everything is so, I found that everything was so organised. Car places everywhere where you can get the work done on your car. There's no such thing as one mechanic in town. There's some beautiful places around there. They have a beautiful promenade, all sorts of stuff going on there. And it's, if you like that thing, it's great. So, what I'm illustrating is that depending on the kind of lifestyle that you want, then you're going to have to find the place that reflects that lifestyle. Now, personally, I don't want to live in heavy traffic anymore. I don't want to gauge how long it will take me to get somewhere by, well, what time do you want me to leave? Oh, that's rush hour. An hour and a half. 10 o'clock in the morning, not too bad, 25 minutes. Don't want to live that kind of life anymore. So, I live on Bohol. And sleepy time Bohol, I can go out onto the main road and I can find virtually no traffic. So that's what suits me. and it suits my wife. We live high in the mountains. We can hardly see, other than our family houses, which are dotted around us, I can't actually see another house. And that's in hundreds of miles of rolling hills, mountains. Okay, so that's my kind of life, isolated. Now, what else? You need, if you've got a pension, you need to set up your pension so that it will be paid direct into your account. Or do you? No, you don't actually. I have a disgracefully small, shamefully small, pathetic, in fact, pension from the UK because I didn't pay in too much there. So obviously I only get back what I put in. Now, I found that the UK Department of Pensions was a joy, honestly a joy to work with. I would call them up and a young woman with a delightful Geordie accent would answer the phone, and she would talk to me. She would have a pulse, she would be able to make judgment calls, and she would work my problems out. And once, when you get out here, every so often, once a year perhaps, they will send a letter, and this is the "Are you still alive?" letter. In other words, they're inquiring if you are still alive, and the only way you can prove that you're still alive is not by having a medical examination, it's just by answering the letter. And they give you an envelope and they ask you to fill in the form. It's very simple. It gives your address. Have you changed anything? Have you got married, divorced, anything? I don't know. Is there anything different that we should know about? No, there's not. So you send the letter off and they give you 6 weeks to do that, so it's fine. The US do a very similar thing. Now, if you don't get that letter, they cut your pension. Now, with the UK, it was relatively easy to get that put on. They were just great. With the US, it took quite a few months, 2-3 months to get that reinstated. Now, if you're depending on that money and don't have a big reserve, that can be a problem. So, better keep wise, better keep up on the post office, better keep up on knowing who the guy is. If his name's Jim, go in there and talk to Jim every so often and say, "Got any letters for me, Jim?" Or you give him your number, and if, like us, he knows you, he'll text you and say, "There's a letter here for you." So, everything works out as long as you work out the different system. So, how much, and this is the very common question, how much do you need to live in the Philippines? Well, how much do you need to live in America? Oh, okay. Where are you living? Beverly Hills. What does it cost you to live? Yeah, right. What does it cost you to live? I don't know, Bishop's Avenue in London. Horrendous amounts of money. And the same here. If you want to live in the Beverly Hills of Cebu or Dumaguete, it's going to cost you a great deal of money. If you want a house that opens out onto the beach, where as soon as you go out of the door, you get sand between your tootsies, it's going to cost you money. If you want to live like we do, way up into the mountains of Burgos, which is a very modest little place anyway, we are between Talabon and Etafe. Etafe doesn't actually have an international bank. Talabon doesn't have a movie house. I don't think it even has a library. If it does, it will be a painfully modest little library and nothing like the one that I used to go into in Fort Myers, which had about 20 or 30 computers which you could sit at. It had a reference library as big as a football field. It was incredible, and lots of retired pensioners who loved to do nothing more than help you. If it was to go into the automated booking out of your book. If you needed a book, you could go to a lady at the counter and she would look all over the country, or all over the state at least, and find, yes, well, we have 3 copies of Who Built the Moon, and one is out, the other one is requested by somebody else, but we can probably get one here, delivered here, and we will text you about that or email you about that in a couple of weeks. Incredible, incredible service, right? Do you have that here? No. In a word, no. So you got stuff to get used to. Then you start depending on people that you left behind. Can you send me this book or that book? You might go into the equivalent of Barnes and Nobles, and they'll just look at you if you ask for a certain book. No. Well, do you have this book? No. Do you have a book? Do you have a book in Braille? No. And they don't think that they should have. So you have to keep your hopes high and your expectations low. Now, what about the attitude? If you're going to come over here, if you're used to going into a store and using the squeaky wheel method, which is you go storming in there and everybody goes, oh Jesus Christ, it's that woman again or that man again, get him served and get him out of here. No, it's not going to work. Especially if you're dealing with someone in a government department. If you're dealing with someone in a government department, just remember this little story. Someone that I knew in Fort Myers who used to work at the airport, and there was one particular man who everybody thought was a little bit on the dark side, a little bit gothic. And he worked in the lost luggage department. And a man came in once, and the man was a squeaky wheel gone mad on steroids. What the hell kind of service do you do here? I got a bag and it's got everything I've got in here, and I'm not got prepared to do that. And doing the whole thing and just flipping his lid. And Mr. Gothic watched him. And he listened. And when the man had finished, he said, "Sir, there's one thing standing between you and your lost luggage. Me. Now, do you want to work with me or not?" And Mr. Squeaky Wheel said, "Certainly. What should I do next?" You see? So, you're going to go in there and blow your top? Good luck. I know someone who did that, and he hasn't been back since. And when he does go back, he might be in a lot of trouble. So, change your attitude and walk around with a half smile on a face instead of looking as if you have a war following you. And that would be my suggestion. When I go out in the morning, got to admit, I look at the world through rose-coloured glasses, and I think that the world is plotting to give me a great time, to make me very happy, to do everything that it can to make my day go wonderful. I'm not always right, but I'm usually a lot happier than the guys on the squeaky wheel syndrome. So that's how I suggest that you do it. Keep your hopes high and your expectations low. Now, if you're going to go through the US Social Security, they are much more heavily involved in forms and doing the right thing. Not so much like the UK Pensions Department. So it may take, surprisingly, it may take longer to get things done. And that means that you must stay on top of it and make sure that your pension doesn't get stopped. And how do you do that? By making sure that you receive the Are You Alive letter and you send it back post haste on the most expensive service that you can. Make sure it gets back within 6 weeks. Otherwise, they'll assume you're dead and they'll stop your pension. Why do they do that? Because nothing gets a person to respond quickly like stopping his pension. That's how it works. So, what kind of expenses can you expect if you're in a place like Dumaguete? I think 15, 20, maybe even 25,000 pesos a month. Work out the exchange rate yourself. Pesos, 51 pesos to the dollar. So, if you're going to have the kind of lifestyle that is equivalent to, say, the UK or the US or any other Western heavily civilized place, then you're going to pay quite high for it. All right, and you will get it because they have beautiful places, they have beautiful houses, and you can get a beautiful car and you can have it serviced, and you will pay for all of that. Now, I just live high in the mountains. We have a modest house. We have a very modest, painfully modest at first, source of income. We only depended upon my US and UK pension. Well, as I said, the UK pension was fairly easy. It was stopped at one point. All I did was got on the phone to the UK and spoke to someone, and it was ironed out within a week. With the US, I had to go to the US embassy. It was a real hassle. So make sure you stay up on those things. So for me, I'm a writer and I have several books on Amazon.com, and I want to keep my account open in the US because Amazon.com were paying my meager royalties into my bank there. So I left that as it was. The US seemed to be very fussy on sending money to the Philippines. That was my experience. Probably not for everybody, but that was my experience. So I decided, you know what, I'll just leave it. I'll keep my Wells Fargo bank account open and just do it that way. So my pension goes into the Wells Fargo every month, and it then relies for me. I then rely on it with my ATM card. So I use my ATM card. Now out here, that can be a trip too. Worshipping at the altar of the ATM god can be an experience because they go in and out like rabbits in a hole. They work, they don't work. Sometimes there's no money there. Sometimes it says unable to process your request. Sometimes it says you're over your limit. That's not because there's no money there, but because you're only allowed to draw a certain amount every day. In my case, it's 10,000 pesos a day. So work it out. Depending on how you arrange it before you come, then it will differ. But it can be a hassle. There's a good reason for why you're only allowed to draw 10,000 pesos a day, and that is because they charge you 250 pesos every time you draw. So it's better for them if you draw less every day, isn't it? It's the old bank thing. Fees, or what I call organized crime. and that is that they can charge you whatever they like. Remember that one time there was an uproar in America where they were actually going to try to charge everybody to use the ATM, and they were going to try, I think it was like $4. You were supposed to pay $4 just to use the ATM. Really, they've managed to pull that off here, haven't they? Because 250 pesos is $5. Well, this is on an unsuspecting public. The bank situation in the Philippines is waiting to be bust wide open, and it will come so that it's the same as America. Right now, it's not. What is it in America? You've got so many, let me see, credit services, and you have a credit rating, and that's one of those things where everything is hooked up in America, so that if you are late on your power bill, your credit card company learn of that and they can charge you a higher rate of interest. There's a name for it other than organized crime, but I've forgotten what that name is. So anyway, if you come out here and you buy a car or a truck on finance, the interest is nothing short of criminal. So, but then if you've got a credit card in America, the interest is now nothing short of criminal. It is. If you take out something like a $5,000 advance on your credit card, and you only pay the minimum amount, you're probably going to be paying $20,000 or $30,000 back over a period of say 15 years. It'll just go on and on and on and on and on, and they'll be quite happy. There's a big myth in America that poor people think that the bank doesn't love them because they're poor. The bank loves you when you're poor. The bank loves you to be in trouble, back fees, penalties, lying, bleeding at the side of the road. Am I painting a horrible picture here? Sorry about that. I've forgotten for a moment that this is a feel-good channel. So, you might find some things you will be very happy to get rid of in America, in Australia, in the UK. But this is what I suggest to you as well, is that leave yourself a little fund for returning to the place of your origin for a little visit after you've been here maybe a year or say 2 years. And a little story that I have for that is some people that I know went and emigrated, it was in the old days, they emigrated to Australia, and the young man and his family, they worked hard, they got a home, they made their life work, and they loved Australia. So they were there, and it was such a good life, great climate, they just loved it. So they were always talking to the man's mom and dad, and finally he said, "Look, Mom, Dad, why don't you come and live with us?" And to that end, they built a nice little apartment at the side of their house for their mom and dad. And Mom and Dad sold up and came and lived with them. Well, they liked it for a couple of weeks, and then the old man said, "Well, there's no pubs, you know, you can't go out and have a drink and have a pint, and there's no I don't know, there's no working men's clubs. I mean, what are you supposed to do with yourself?" And the mother said, "Well, you can't get a bus anywhere, there's no underground. I mean, what is it?" Well, this complaining went on for a long time, and then finally the son said, "Mom, Dad, I bought you a ticket back to the UK for a little vacation, and you can go, and you're going to spend your time with Uncle Nev and Auntie Jean, and they are going to be so happy to have you. You can stay there for 3 months. Well, the parents were so delighted, and off they went. They saw them off at the airport. They were almost sorry to see them go because they thought they'd never come back. Well, Mom and Pop went and they stayed with Uncle Ned and Auntie Jean, and they quickly realised what they'd left behind. But they hadn't realised it until they returned home. It didn't seem like home anymore. The pubs had lost their charm. The underground wasn't so important anymore, and she didn't really go to any of those theatres. 2 weeks and they wanted to return to Australia. So, give yourself a little fund for returning to find out what it was that you left. Who knows? It may be what you are really happy with. Some other people that I know came, English guy, American wife, always talking about what it was like in good old Blighty, in good old UK. That was the life. They packed up their home in Los Angeles and they arrived during the coal miners' strike a number of years ago. There was no central heating. It was freezing cold. A lot of public transport was affected. They never actually unpacked. Other than suitcases, they never unpacked. And they realised that they'd made a terrible mistake. And they left and went home. So, be aware, it may be far different to what you think it is. Now I know that I've meandered a little bit, but you can get all facts and figures from other people. What I'm talking about is the fact that you are coming to a place that has possibly the poorest but happiest people on the planet. And I think the trick is to come and find out what the secret is of being happy. It's not about money. It's not perfect. Neither are the Filipino people perfect. But they are happy. What the hell is the secret? If they could bottle that secret and sell it, this would be the richest place on the planet. But actually, if people here are happy, perhaps it is the richest place on the planet. All those OFWs out there, they're all watching the programs that we make about a simple life in the Philippines, and they're all thinking, I want to go home. Gotta mean something, hasn't it? This is A Foreigner in the Philippines, if you're still with me.